Good morning, ma'am.
Ma'am, sound is not audible.
Ma'am, your voice is not audible.
Ma'am, voice not audible, ma'am.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it audible?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So what are the different types of acid-base titrations? We know that there are 4 different types of acid-base titrations. That is strong acid versus strong base, strong acid versus weak base, weak acid versus strong base, weak acid versus weak base. 4 types of acid-base titrations which we discussed in the previous classes. So in acid-base titrations, how the pH which has to be changed. When we add an indicator, then what is that pH change in that acid-base titrations, that which we have to discuss it today. Okay. So first see, what are acid-base titrations and pH changes, that which we have to see. First one is titration of a strong acid with a strong base. Consider the titration of 25 ml of 0.1 HCl, that is strong acid, against 0.1 NaOH, which is a strong base. The base is continuously added and the pH of the solution is plotted against the volume of the base added. This is the graph which we have to see here. So what we have to do in the acid-base titrations is simply we should take an acid around 25 ml or 20 ml. That depends on the availability of acid in the laboratory. So which we have to take it at 20 or 25 ml of a concentrated acid, generally strong acid, which we have to take it as 0.1 HCl in a conical flask. And then we have to fill the burette with 0.1 sodium hydroxide, which comes under strong base. Then we should add the base to the acid continuously by simply adding 1 or 2 drops of an indicator general. In general, for a strong acid and a strong base, if it is, the pH range must be from 3 to 9.5. So which indicator which is suitable for that range is generally it is a phenolphthalein or methyl orange. Most of the cases which we can use it phenolphthalein, because phenolphthalein indicators range is from 8.5 to 10. If it is a methyl orange, it's around 3 to 4.4, 3.3 to 4.5 methyl orange. So most of the cases we can use it both the indicators. That's based on availability of indicators which we can use it. So when we are going to add a base to the acid, the pH which has to be changed. For an acid, the pH must be always less than 7. If it is a strong acid, then which has to be around below 5 only. When we have to add a strong base, that means strong base whose pH must be above the 9 or 9.5 general. So when we add a base to a strong acid, first pH which has to be increased first by simply neutralizing the H plus ions with OH minus ions from a base. So when we add NaOH to HCl, from HCl, H plus ions and Cl minus ions, which is formed from the dissociation of strong acid, and from sodium hydroxide, Na plus and OH minus ions are formed. So H plus from strong acid, OH minus from a strong base, which can react, which is leads to a formation of a unionized water molecule. So it at the starting pH value, which is very less, that is less than 5, it's around 3. Then it starts when we add continuously base to an acid. So simply pH value is going to be increased to a certain value. When it reaches, complete neutralization takes place. That means formation of a salt and water, which we can observe it. At that point, we can observe the sharp change in the pH value, because after that only base which we can observe in the conical flask, because complete HCl which is going to be react with sodium hydroxide. After that also, if you add excess of sodium hydroxide, then we can observe only base is present in the conical flask. So the pH value which has to be, that way sodium hydroxide which is a strong base, so pH value which has to be somewhat more, that which we can observe by changing pH value with the addition of base. If you draw a graph, that graph which we can observe like this. See, the base is continuously added and the pH value of the solution is plotted against the volume of base added. As expected, the pH of the solution at the neutralization point should be equal to 7. So in general, at the neutralization point, that means a salt and water which has to be formed at the neutralization point. It has been found that the pH value of the solution just before neutralization was 3, and just after the neutralization it is 9.5. Hence, all the indicators which have the pH range between 3 to 9.5 are suitable for the titration of a strong acid with a strong base. See, for example, if you observe this, simply I will maximize this graph, then only it is easy to understand. See, so when we draw a graph, against pH value, against a base, how much we are going to be added. So base is in the x-axis and pH value in y-axis. So if you observe this line, this is the straight line what we have observed, that in this point, complete this range is nothing but pH range for a strong acid versus strong base. From 3 to 9.5, the pH value it starts increasing from 3 to 9.5 when we are going to add a base to strong acid. Once it reaches around 9.5, it immediately starts increasing. That is nothing but only base which we can observe from this point itself. So the range of a strong acid versus strong base pH value is from 3 to 9.5. Whatever may be the indicator which can work in between that range, that which we have to use it, whether it may be a methyl orange or it may be phenolphthalein. Methyl orange, it can work with 3.3 to 4.5, and phenolphthalein indicator, it's 8.5 to 9.5 or around 10. So both can work for strong acid versus strong base. So which indicates a particular, there is a change in the pH value, that to a gradual increase, that change which we can observe, it's a straight change only in the pH value. For in that change of pH value, both strong acid and strong base, they are going to be reacted, and then neutralization reaction continuously it has to be takes place up to this. From here it starts and the ends here. So that only that is the range of pH for a strong acid versus. Once it reaches, then there is no neutralization, only which we can observe a base only present in the reaction. in the conical flask, because whatever the HCl which is present in, that has to be completely reacted with the base. So we can expect it as sodium chloride and water. Once it reaches the pH of around 9.5 or this point, then complete HCl has to be converted as sodium chloride and water. So the remaining, if you add now also for sodium hydroxide or a base, then the increase in the pH is because of only sodium hydroxide. That is nothing but a strong base. That is for the strong acid versus strong base, which we have to know. Next, titration of a weak acid versus a strong base. Weak acid example is acetic acid, and strong base is example is sodium hydroxide. Whatever the acid base titrations which we are going to study now, that which we discussed already in potentiometric titrations and conductometric titrations in electrochemistry. In conductometric titration, simply we are measuring the conductance value. In potentiometric titrations, we measured the EMF of the cell. That is, in this case, what we have to measure is, we have to measure the volume of the solution, or what is the difference in the pH, which we have to observe it by simply drawing a graph against pH value to the volume of a base, how much it is going to be added. So for a weak acid versus a strong base, that means acetic acid versus sodium hydroxide. Consider the titration of 25 ml of 0.1N acetic acid, which is a weak acid, and with 0.1N sodium hydroxide solution, which is a strong base. Acetic acid reacts with sodium hydroxide to form sodium acetate and water. So what is the reaction which has to be takes place between acetic acid and sodium hydroxide is CH3COOH acetic acid plus NaOH, which gives rise to CH3COONA sodium acetate plus water. Acetic acid reacts with the sodium hydroxide to form sodium acetate and water. Sodium acetate on hydrolysis forms a basic solution. So sodium acetate, if it undergoes hydrolysis, that means reaction with water, then what we have to expect it? Once again, sodium hydroxide and acetic acid. So that is sodium hydroxide is what? It's a basic solution. So when sodium acetate, if it undergoes hydrolysis, the solution, what is the nature of the solution? It's a basic solution. The end point lies at some pH value which is more than 7. More than 7, it's a basic nature. So whatever the salt which is formed between sodium hydroxide and acetic acid, that is weak acid versus a strong base, which is nothing but sodium acetate. That sodium acetate immediately it undergoes hydrolysis because water which is formed in the solution. When acetic acid CH3COOH plus NaOH reacts, CH3COONA sodium acetate plus water which is formed, which is a reversible reaction actually. Because of reversible reaction, how much of a speed has sodium acetate which is formed? That is forward reaction which favors. Same way backward reaction also has to be performed at the same time. So sodium acetate, how much fast it is going to be formed from acetic acid and sodium hydroxide along with the water. Same sodium acetate which is formed from forward reaction which undergoes dissociation because of water is present in that reaction, so which undergoes hydrolysis reaction. Once again, we can expect a acetic acid and sodium hydroxide because it's a reversible reaction. So when sodium acetate undergoes dissociation or if it undergoes hydrolysis, that means reaction with water, which happens, so which leads to acetic acid and sodium hydroxide once again. So the solution which is right now, which is having a basic in nature. So basic solutions, pH value generally what we have to expect it is above 7 only. So above 7 is the pH which we can expect it for acetic acid when it reacts with sodium hydroxide or neutralization reaction between weak acid versus a strong base in general. So the end point where we have to expect it, it's above 7. And when it reacts with the sodium hydroxide, it converts into a sodium acetate. Once again, sodium acetate undergoes hydrolysis, which converts into acetic acid and sodium hydroxide, so that it is a basic solution. So basic nature increases, so the pH value which has to be increased. So that what happens means that is basic nature means OH minus ions concentration increases. So pH value increases, it's around 9 or 10, where we can expect it complete neutralization reaction takes place between acetic acid and sodium hydroxide. So the pH range for a weak acid and a strong base it must be around 7 to 9, which we can expect it. That range only phenolphthalein can work. That is the indicator which can work in between that range is phenolphthalein, because phenolphthalein pH range is from 8.52 or 8.3 to 9.5 or 10 maximum. So that in that range, phenolphthalein only can work it. So we can use for the acid-base titration of weak acid versus a strong base. Phenolphthalein is the only indicator which we have to use it. Methyl orange, which is not supposed to use. Sometimes we may expect a question like this. For a volumetric titrations or for a acid-base titration of a weak acid, that is, in general, they may ask it as acetic acid. When we want to titrate acetic acid versus sodium hydroxide, in that titration, methyl orange indicator is not used. Phenolphthalein indicator, we have to use it. Why? For a very short answer question, such a type of questions which we can expect it. For that, what we have to write the answer is methyl orange. It's an indicator whose pH range is between 3.33 to 4.5 only. But for a acid-base titrations of weak acid versus strong base, whose pH range is between 7 to 9.5 or around 9. So which methyl orange pH range is less than the pH range of a weak acid versus a strong base. So methyl orange won't work for that titration. So that only phenolphthalein, which is having a pH range of around 8.3 to 9.5. So we can use it phenolphthalein as an indicator for weak acid versus a strong base. Like that, we have to give the answer for such a type of questions. We may expect such a type of question for short answer. That is 2.5 marks. This is a very simple answer, but if you know what is the range of the indicators, in general, for your syllabus, methyl orange and phenolphthalein indicators, which we have to use it. Most of the cases. And sometimes we may use a starch or iriochrome black tea indicator that are for iodometry titrations and dichrometry or potassium permanganometry. Permanganometry, we won't use any indicator because potassium permanganate itself acts as a self-indicator. So for some EDTA titrations, that is complexometric titrations, which we have to use it, EBT indicator, ethylene, iriochrome black tea indicator, that is the indicator which we have to use. In general, for acid-base titrations, the only two indicators which we can use it is either methyl orange or phenolphthalein. So if you observe the pH of weak acid versus a strong base, see, the end point lies at the some pH value which is more than 7. The base is continuously added and the pH value of the solution is plotted against the volume of the base added. For such a type of titrations, that is weak acid versus a strong base titrations, the indicator should be selected which has a pH range between 7, that is the neutralization point, to 9.0. Phenolphthalein has a pH range between 8.3 to 9.8 and serves the purpose best. So only we have to use it phenolphthalein as the indicator. So if you observe the graph for this type of indicators, see, if you enlarge this graph like this, base how much which we have to add it. For a 25 ml of 0.1 acetic acid, if you have taken in a clinical class, and titrate against with a sodium hydroxide, which is having a concentration of 0.1 m once again. So pH, which we can observe it for acetic acid, it's a weak acid, so the pH value for acetic acid is around above 4.5 or above 4. Generally, 1 to 3.5 or 4 is a strong acid. Above 4 is a weak acid. So from 4, which we can observe change in the pH value, which is going to be increased. That means because of sodium hydroxide, if you add it, it reacts with sodium hydroxide, which converts into sodium acetate. Sodium acetate, once again, it undergoes hydrolysis with water, which converts acetic acid and sodium hydroxide. It's a reversible reaction. So the pH change, which we can observe in the neutralization point, that is from 4 to 8.5. It's once it reaches above 8, then only sodium hydroxide, which we can observe it. So the pH value, which is going to be completely increased because of a strong base. This is for weak acid versus strong base for pH changes. Then next, third type, weak base with a strong acid. Weak base general example is ammonium hydroxide. Strong acid is HCl. So ammonium hydroxide, if it reacts with HCl, ammonium chloride and water, which we can expect it as a salt and water. Then what is the pH range for that? That for weak base versus a strong acid, see which we have to see now. Consider the titration of 25 ml of 0.1 m ammonium hydroxide solution, which is a weak base, against 0.1 n HCl, that is a strong acid, to form ammonium chloride and water. Ammonium chloride on hydrolysis forms an acidic solution because ammonium ion NH4 plus and Cl minus. NH4 plus, once again it undergoes dissociation which converts as H plus and ammonia. The base is continuously added and the pH value of the solution is plotted against the volume of the base added. The endpoint lies at some pH value which is less than 7. For such a titration, the indicator should be selected which has a pH range between 3 to 4.5. Methyl orange has a pH range between 3 to 4.5 and hence serves the purpose the best. See, for weak base versus strong acid, the ammonium hydroxide is a weak base and which we have to titrate against with a strong acid, that is concentrate strong acid HCl, it is having a molarity 0.1 m normality. Simply we should take ammonium hydroxide in conical flask and add HCl from the burette. Generally. So when we add HCl from the burette, or if you take in general, preferable way which we have to take it is acid is in conical flask and base is in burette. So ammonium hydroxide which we have to take it in a burette and HCl which we have to take it in a conical flask. But the reaction takes place is first ammonium hydroxide which is ready to react with HCl, whatever it is there in the conical flask. So the pH range what we have for HCl, which is a strong acid, so which has a pH of from 1 to 3 only, and ammonium hydroxide which is a weak base whose pH is near the 7, that is around 7 to 8.5 only. So that neutralization point, or when it undergoes neutralization, we can expect the pH range between. So the pH of HCl which has to be increased and then pH of ammonium hydroxide which has to be decreased. So in between 3 to 4 only which we can expect it a neutralization reaction takes place in between that two. So when we draw a graph, that which we can expect the peak as from 3.5 to 7, but neutralization, complete neutralization takes place between 3 to 4.5 only. Even though we observed this line, increase in the pH from 3.5 to around 9 or 9.5, but complete neutralization takes place only in between 3 to 4.5. When it reaches 7, that is neutralization is completely completed for in between ammonium hydroxide and HCl. So that which we have to is it an indicator which can work in between that pH range only. 3 to 4.5 only the neutralization pH for weak base versus strong acid. So in that range, the indicator which can work is methyl orange. So we have to use it methyl orange for this type of titrations as an indicator. What is the color of methyl orange? In acid, what is the color? And base, what's the color? In acid, it is an orange red color, and in a base, it is a pink color. Sorry, yellow color. And phenolphthalein in acidic medium, it is colorless, and in basic medium, it is a pink color. That is how to remember it. That is third type of acid-base titration. Then what about the last one? Weak acid versus weak base. Weak acid with a weak base. Weak acid is acetic acid and weak base is ammonium hydroxide. Or simply, generally acetic acid, which we get, oxalic acid is also a weak acid. In this case, which we have to take it as oxalic acid as a weak base. Consider the titration of 25 ml of ammonium hydroxide solution, that is a weak base, against 0.1 m oxalic acid, weak acid. The base is continuously added and the pH value of the solution is plotted against the volume of the base added. The curve in this case, no sharp change in the pH value. It's not a pH value. Thus, such titration is not possible. Phenol red has a pH range of 6.8 to 8.4, and hence by using the indicator, approximate determination of neutralization can be made. So for a weak acid versus weak base, whether it may be ammonium hydroxide versus acetic acid or ammonium hydroxide versus oxalic acid, when we add a base to the acid, A sharp peak like what we observe for the remaining 3 types of titrations, we won't observe such a type of peak change in the pH value for a weak acid versus weak base. So we are unable to find out at the neutralization point a particular range because short pH is not observed in case of a weak acid versus weak base. Even though we draw a graph which is not supposed to observe like such a type of graph. Simply what we have to observe is just like this, a S-shaped symbol graph which we can observe it. By using that graph, we are unable to find out the neutralization point. But and one more thing is the neutralization pH range for weak acid for weak base is around 6.8 to 8.4. 6.8 to 8.4. So in between that range, methyl orange won't work it, and phenolphthalein also not possible to work it. So the only indicator which we can use it is phenol rate, which we have to use it. Yeah, that too, even though we use an indicator, which is not possible to find out its exact end point or neutralization point for weak acid versus weak base. So that is the graph which we can't observe it. That will be what we have to expect it is just like a S-shaped symbol. But in that, yes, we are not observing such a type of sharp peaks like this in case of weak acid versus weak base. That is the fourth type of acid-base titration, that is weak acid versus weak base. So different types of weak acid-base titrations are strong acid versus weak strong base, strong acid versus weak base, weak acid versus strong base, and weak acid versus weak base. 4 types. How the pH which has to be changed. What is the sharp range for that particular titrations, which we can discuss it till now. Next is redox titrations. What is meant by redox titrations? If any titration in any reaction or in any titration, if both oxidation and reduction has to be takes place simultaneously, then which we can call it as a redox titration. So both oxidation and reduction, both the reaction which has to be takes place simultaneously in any chemical reaction, then that is a redox. From reduction, we have to take 3 terms, RET. From oxidation, once again, we have to take 2 terms, that is OX, redox. If you combine that, then it becomes as a redox titration. So in any redox titrations, both oxidation and reduction takes place simultaneously. And if any substance, if it undergoes oxidation, that is a reducing agent. And any substance which undergoes reduction is an oxidizing agent. So we can observe oxidizing agent and reducing agent, oxidation and reduction reactions, both in case of redox titrations. Okay, so what are the main redox titrations which we have to see? A redox titration is one in which the substance to be determined is either oxidized or reduced by means of the solution with which the titration is made. So what is redox titration? It's a titration of one in which the substance to be determined in either oxidized or reduced by means of solution with which the titration is made. So to whom weight which we have to find out it, that substance has to be added to the solution, whether the substance may undergo oxidation or reduction, or it may be an oxidizing agent or reducing agent. When it reacts with another substance, that substance may be either oxidizing agent or reducing agent, or if it undergoes oxidation or reduction, from that only which we can find out it the substance weight in the redox reactions. So in redox reactions, both which we can observe, oxidation and reduction, or oxidizing agent or reducing agent. And reducing agent. Titrimetric determinations based on oxidation reduction reactions are mostly used in the quantitative analysis of inorganic as well as organic compounds. So titrimetric determinations, so that means using titrations, if you want to find out a substance, both either in the oxidation or reduction reactions, mostly which we can use it. Quantitative, in the quantitative analysis, that means quantity which we have to find out it using that analysis. That is possible both in inorganic and organic compounds also. Inorganic analysis is there and organic analysis is also there. in which both oxidation and reduction reactions takes place. The redox titrations are of three types. What are that? Permanganometry, dichrometry, iodometry. So there are three types of redox titrations are there. Permanganometry, dichrometry, iodometry. Permanganometry is permanganate, potassium permanganate. Generally, if you use it, then that they are called as a permanganometric titrations. One substance must be a permanganate, potassium permanganate KMnO4. Then it is a permanganometry titrations. Another substances, if potassium permanganate act as an oxidizing agent, then the another substance whose weight or whose molecular weight which we want to find out it, or which we are going to be estimated quantitatively, that must be a reducing agent. Or potassium permanganate, if it undergoes oxidation, then the other substance whose weight, if you want to find out it, that must be undergoes reduction. That is the thing which we have to observe in case of redox titrations generally. So in all the redox titrations, whether it may be a permanganometry, a dichrometry, or iodometry, redox titrations must have to be performed. That means both oxidation and reduction reactions has to be takes place. Oxidation is nothing but oxidation number has to be decreased from high to low, then it is an oxidation reaction. If oxidation number increases from low to high, then it is a reduction reaction. If the reaction is oxidation, then the substance is a reducing agent. If the reaction is reduction, then the substance is a oxidizing agent, can act as a oxidizing agent. So oxidation is nothing but a reducing agent. A reduction is nothing but oxidizing agent. So one substance, if it is potassium permanganate, then the titrations, which we can call it as a permanganometric titrations. If potassium permanganate is used, that is estimations which involve the use of potassium permanganate are called as KMnO4 titrations or permanganometric titrations. So if we use potassium permanganate in the estimation of a substance, then that is nothing but permanganometric titrations. Then dichrometry. Potassium dichromate, if you use it as one substance in the estimation or in the determination of any substance, then they are dichrometry or K2Cr2O7 titrations. Potassium dichromate titration, simply, which we can call it as. If we use potassium dichromate, then they are dichrometric titrations. What about iodometry? If we use iodine, whether iodine is directly used in the reaction or iodine gas which is going to be evolved in the reaction, that which we discussed in the previous class. Iodometry two types, iodimetry, iodometry. Iodimetry is iodine gas which is used in the reaction. Iodometry is nothing but potassium iodide. Reaction with potassium iodide takes place. Iodine gas which has to be liberated. That which we have to estimate it in some reactions. That is iodometry. So both comes under iodometry only. If we use iodine, either in the form of a directly as iodine gas or in the form of a potassium iodide, then such a reactions generally which we can call it as iodometry. So redox reactions are three types. Permanganometry titrations, dichrometry titrations, iodometry titrations. Permanganometry titrations are nothing but if potassium permanganate, if we use it or estimate the any substance using potassium permanganate, then they are permanganometric titrations. Dichrometry is if we use potassium dichromate, that is K2Cr2O7, then they are dichrometric titrations or potassium dichromate titrations also we can call it. And iodometry is nothing but if we use either iodine gas directly or if the substance which we can determine by using potassium iodide, if it reacts with the substance, then iodine gas which is liberated. That iodine gas which we have to estimate it in terms of the metal which we have to find out it in iodometric titrations in general. So if iodine use iodometry, if potassium dichromate is dichrometry, if potassium permanganate use, then permanganometry. There are three types of titrations comes under redox titrations. So first one is permanganometric titrations. What is permanganometric titrations? Potassium permanganate is a well-known oxidizing agent. Due to this property of potassium permanganate, it can be titrated against reducing agents like ferrous salts, oxalates, oxalic acid. KMnO4 acts as an oxidizing agent in presence of an acid. Sulfuric acid is the only acid suitable for this purpose. With sulfuric acid, it gives nascent action, oxygen as shown below. So KMnO4, that is potassium permanganate, which can act as oxidizing agent. That reaction generally possible only in presence of a sulfuric acid. Strong sulfuric acid, that too. So if it acts as an oxidizing agent, another substance where we have to find out its weight must be a reducing agent. Generally, that reducing agents may be ferrous salts, oxalates, or oxalic acid, which we can use it to identify or to determine the weight of ferrous, oxalate ions, or oxalic acid weight using potassium permanganate. But the reaction has to be initiated by sulfuric acid only. So potassium permanganate as an oxidizing agent, and the ferrous sulfate or ferrous ion or oxalates or oxalic acid, which can act as a reducing agent. So oxidizing agent is there, reducing agent is there. So the reaction is a redox titration. That is example 2 KMnO4 potassium permanganate plus 3 H2SO4 in presence of sulfuric acid. What is the reaction means? Potassium sulfate, manganese sulfate, water and nascent oxygen. One atomic oxygen, simply which we can call it as a nascent oxygen. So whatever the oxygen which is liberated here, now which reacts with the ferrous sulfate, that is a reducing agent. So this nascent oxygen is responsible for the oxidation of reducing agents and hence form the basis of this titration. So 2FeSO4 plus H2SO4 plus O gives rise to Fe2SO4 thrice plus H2. Ferrous sulfate, which is going to be converted as ferric sulfate. So the reaction is oxidation. Oxidation state increases in this reaction. Fe plus 2 to here Fe plus 2. In this case, it is a plus 3. So increase in oxidation is nothing but a reduction takes place, and decrease in oxidation is nothing but oxidation reaction. So which we can observe in presence of a potassium permanganate, as potassium permanganate, which is an oxidizing agent. So wherever we use potassium permanganate, then that are nothing but a permanganometry titrations. General. Many reactions are there. This in general simply which we can represent the same reaction. I will explain this once again in the next class also. Okay. And regarding first semester notes, I send you all the notes yesterday, and important questions also I send you. You have to read it well. At least important questions you should read it. Okay, regarding second sem notes, once I finish this notes lesson, then I will send you this lesson. Remaining part, whatever I finished, I already gave you the notes. If you didn't have any notes, just send a message in the WhatsApp, then I will send you. Okay. Anyone? No doubts? Hello?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.